It is 7:14 a.m. on a completely ordinary Tuesday when your phone buzzes on the nightstand. You reach out, half asleep, expecting a barrage of work emails or calendar alerts. Instead, you see a push notification from your banking app. You rub your eyes, assuming it is a software glitch, but the number remains static. 1, followed by 12 zeros. $1 trillion. In a fraction of a second, your old reality is vaporized. The rent you were stressed about? Gone. The student loans, the credit card debt, the car payment due next week, all of it instantly erased from your mind. You immediately begin to play out the fantasy. You could buy an entire island archipelago in the Bahamas before lunch. If you spent $100,000 every single day, it would take you 27,000 years to run out of money. You possess more liquid wealth than the annual gross domestic product of Saudi Arabia, Switzerland, or Turkey. It is the initial, unadulterated rush of dopamine, the feeling of absolute, unfettered freedom. To truly understand the scale of what has happened, we have to look at the physics of $1 trillion. At $1 per second, spending $1 million takes 12 days. $1 billion takes 32 years. $1 trillion takes 32,000 years. Stacked in $100 bills, it stretches 67 miles into space, past Earth's atmosphere into the thermosphere. By mid-afternoon on day one, you realize you cannot spend this money in a traditional way. If you tried to buy up prime real estate in Manhattan, London, and Tokyo all at once, you would single-handedly trigger hyperinflation in those markets, pricing out entire populations. Even attempting to liquidate your wealth to keep it in cash would collapse the global banking system. Your wealth has become a tectonic force. It is a macroeconomic gravity well that behaves by its own set of rules. By evening, a transaction of this magnitude has alerted international financial regulators. The news breaks globally. News anchors speculate about your identity, and drones buzz past your apartment window. You are forced to retreat into a highly secure private estate, trading your autonomy for a guarded perimeter. The social fallout is even more immediate. You offer a close friend $10 million to clear their mortgage and set them up for life, but the dynamic of the friendship is permanently altered. You are no longer equals. You are the person who can overwrite their financial struggles with a single signature. You begin to wonder if they are being genuine or simply walking on eggshells to avoid upsetting their benefactor. Soon, the floodgates open. Distant relatives write long letters about sudden hardships. Strangers send devastating sob stories. To protect yourself, you build a barrier. You hire personal assistants, lawyers, and wealth managers to filter your human interactions. Anyone who enters your home must now sign a non-disclosure agreement. Over time, you begin to view every smile as a transaction and every compliment as an investment. You enter a state of chronic hypervigilance, where the default trust you once placed in people is replaced by the constant need to vet their intentions. You decide to embrace the luxury. You buy a private superyacht, an estate in the south of France, and a fleet of hypercars. For the first few weeks, the novelty is intoxicating. The food is prepared by Michelin-starred chefs. The views from your private island are breathtaking. But the human brain is wired for adaptation. As this graph shows, our dopamine system cares about contrast and anticipation, not absolute comfort. When middle-class saving months for vacation created joy, but with no obstacle between desire and gratification, anticipation disappears. If you want to fly to Paris for dinner, your private jet is ready before you finish packing. The 10th time you fly private, it's highly convenient. The 100th time, it's just a quiet bus in the sky. Michelin-starred food becomes your standard baseline, and the thrill of acquisition dies. You find yourself standing in a $50 million penthouse, looking out over the city, feeling completely numb. Because you can have everything, the material world becomes a flat gray background of indifference. At this level of wealth, you are no longer a private citizen. You are a sovereign institution. Any move you make in the market creates a seismic wave. If you buy shares in a green energy company, the stock rockets on your name alone. If you sell, you can bankrupt entire corporations overnight. You face an agonizing dilemma because your wealth is too large to be passive. If you do nothing, you are a hoarder sitting on a mountain of gold while the world suffers. But if you try to fix things, you enter the messy world of global geopolitics. You try to fund infrastructure, only to be sued by fossil fuel conglomerates or blocked by regulatory red tape. Every action you take is scrutinized, criticized, and theorized. Your days are no longer filled with leisure. They are consumed by board meetings, legal depositions, and security briefings required to manage your impact on the global economy. You realize that your wealth has stripped you of your autonomy. You aren't free to live your life. You are a custodian of an empire, a prisoner of your own leverage. The ultra-wealthy who maintain their sanity eventually stop playing the game of more. They realize that accumulating another billion is meaningless. They pivot toward contribution, funding long-term scientific research or tackling global pandemics, problems that are larger than themselves. This pivot works because the human brain is an evolutionary problem solver. We require resistance. We need goals that are difficult to reach and struggles that demand our best efforts to feel a sense of accomplishment. $1 trillion removes the superficial distractions of daily life. It forces you to confront the core questions of existence, purpose, legacy, and connection, far sooner than anyone else. Ultimately, infinite wealth acts as a mirror. It shows you that fulfillment doesn't come from the ability to buy anything, but from the agency to build something meaningful and the depth of genuine human connection.